Live.
Oh yeah, 3, 2, 1. We're live.
I turned my head and it was already there. Appreciate everybody joining in on TikTok, and also we're gonna let some folks come on in from the YouTube and the Facebook side of things. And you never guess what I hear rumbling outside tonight. It's a thunderstorm. It's always thunderstorms whenever I decide to go live. Got another one coming in tonight as usual, so it's
never
part
fail.
of the, I think.
I missed you guys. We're back, and it's not even a Tuesday. We're throwing you off too. So
yeah, we got a little different things going on tonight. We decided to go ahead and go over Tuesday night and go into tonight because of the holiday, because of the 4th of July. Hope everybody had a great 4th. I know we had a flat-out blast weekend for the 4th of July.
We did too, for sure. Me and the wife had about a week off, so both of us had a good time. Yeah. I told her we've been spending too much time together now. It's time to get back to work before we kill each other.
Guys, I see some guys already know the program. If you're joining in, like Mr. Ricky Bridges and David and
Shannon. What's going on, buddy?
You know what I'm going to say already? 10K Crappie Connection helps get the party started. And you guys watching on TikTok there, do the same thing. 10K Crappie Connection, and we'll get the party started. Ronnie Thompson, Charles, Ryan, Greg. There's Mr. Tony Skeen. Greg? Appreciate you guys coming on, Trey.
We're going to need some fishing reports from y'all here real soon. We need to know how that summer bite's going. Chip Lott, what's going on, buddy?
No, it's anybody mention about, you think about steak. That's at Doe's. Yes, Doe's place is still open there in Greenville, Mississippi. It's actually a famous steakhouse in Mississippi. That
believe it or not, I've been there. I've been to that one. Ken told we were going to Grenada, and we drove, I think, an hour and a half or an hour and 45 minutes out of the way just to get one of those steaks. He took me out there. He said, that is Mississippi. We got, I don't know how heavy they were. I want to say almost 2 pounds.
Yeah.
Big old bone-in, giant ribeyes. And if you guessed it, I was chewing on the bone by the time it was over. I ate the whole thing. Ken could not. Oh, yeah, I ate the whole thing. It gave me the meat sweats, but I ate the whole thing. And it was good. It was amazing. I will tell you, though, the place was a little sketchy walking in there.
Yeah, it is. It's part of the experience.
Yeah, but, for sure. No doubt.
It's one that you don't forget anytime. The food is delicious. The atmosphere is really unique.
Yes.
And they've got some kind of good.
Unique is the word for that one.
Yep. Jim Churchill. I see you in there. He's up there at the Crappie compound. I seen him post some stuff from up there at Sardis, Mississippi.
Brandon Threadgill. What's going on, buddy? I bet he's beating him up out there. I guarantee he is. I know he is already. If he's doing what Ninja's doing.
What is Ninja doing? Maybe he's on here tonight.
He's out there in Georgia. Crappie Ninjas in Georgia beating up giant blacks. He sent some pictures of what he caught today, and he's beating them up. Not even fair. Looked like 2-pounders to me, so we'll have to see. Joe, I know you're getting on here. Tell me how big those black crappie were. Come on, what they weigh? Be honest, too.
You got Charles Henderson. He's welcoming you back to the show. It's been a while.
I appreciate it, buddy.
What happened last week, Dustin? Fill us all in. What happened to you, Dustin? Where were you last week?
Oh, my gosh, yeah. I got an ear infection that I can't even put into words how painful the ear infection was. So I had to set this one out, and it might have been from chasing those fish that eat crappie, those catfish in holes. I was noodling and swam up in this hole, and I think I got sand in one of my ears, and I went to rubbing it and turned into a massacre. So, yeah, I lost hearing. It was awful. I think I blew my eardrum. It was unbelievable pain, but we're back now, and that's all that matters. Alabama River has been fire. I told you Brandon Threadgill was on them. Brandon, those big black crappie, I can't remember if he said he's catching them in that river, big blacks or not, but I know in Georgia where Joe Pretensy catches them, they're all black mainly. I'd say he's catched them. Blackfish. Brian Wade can't wait to retire and get moved down to Mississippi just a few more years. Brian, I don't blame you. I'd be moving to Mississippi too if I was retired. No doubt about it.
I'll kick off tonight's show. First off, I want to thank Bobby Garland Baits for doing this for us and doing it for you guys. Great bait company, makes some excellent baits that absolutely, there it is on
You bet.
chest. But we couldn't do this show without him, and been a long time supporter for the Crappie Connection and everything I've done in the past. So it's actually a very good thing, and appreciate everybody coming on every week. We couldn't do it without you guys, and definitely, make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow, and keep this party going every week. It's next week we'll be back to our Tuesday night, 7 p.m. like we are every week. This was just a thing that the holiday kind of fell on, and we kind of switched up things. And I asked you guys last week about it, and everybody chimed in that tonight would be the best night. And I actually think that was the best decision as well. So I fished all last week until Friday, and then took off the weekend, took off the 4th. But I fished today, and I'll go ahead and kind of give you my details on today's bite and fishing report. And it's from Ross Barnett here in Ridgeland, Mississippi. I started out the day fishing some of the typical river ledges, and fish are really piled up on them, but they're in a kind of a holiday slump, I guess you would say. They were real finicky. They acted real full. Every fish that I caught today, one thing that I noticed about them, which is a good thing for the lake, is they're absolutely swollen up. Their bellies are about to pop. They look almost like a pre-spawn crappie at the moment. They're so big, which shows how healthy this lake is. It's absolutely full of crappie right now, and they are full to the gills full of fish. I mean, full of shad. They're eating them nonstop, which makes the bite really tricky. Now, a month ago, you would toss it anywhere near them, and they would come out, 3 or 4 or 5 feet to come chase down a bait. Now, you've almost got to stop the bait in front of their face. And one of the keys that my success that I've really been concentrating on is I've been trying to cast actually to the brush pile and let the jig come down to the fish on the brush pile and just kind of tapping it and stopping it right above them, and then just slowly reeling it away, which means I had to change up my setup. Even fishing 15 foot deep, I switched to using either a 16th and a 32nd ounce, and I put my 16th up front and then 32nd ounce in the back. Or I'm even casting 2 32nd ounce jigs. So I'm wanting a really slow fall, and it really triggers them more for me whenever I can cast on top of that brush pile and they can see the jig coming down to them almost. And they want that real slowly falling. But it seems to me that whenever that bait stops and starts to move away from them is what triggers them. Now, if I cast past them and just bring that jig right through them, they'll ignore it. I think they see so many bait fish swimming around them all day long. You've got to do something different to actually get their attention. And that's why I've downsized even the size of the jig heads that I'm using. Like I said, the last couple of weeks I've been using most days just 2 1/16 ounce jig heads and just bringing them right above them. Now, like I said, today, the trick of my trade was casting actually to the brush pile, letting it fall directly on top of them, stopping the bait, and using these lighter weight jig heads, stopping them and just pausing them and slowly reeling them away. And by far, my best color is a color called horsefly, which no surprise anybody that watches every week that I'm a big orange guy. I like the color orange as far as jig goes. Not so much pink. I'm not like Dustin. He likes pink jigs. It's not my thing here. Horsefly's just been a fantastic color for me, especially today. And like I said, the recipe for me was fishing really brush piles about 13 foot of water to about 17, 18 foot of water, and just casting directly to them, making sure the bait falls directly on top of them, pausing it, and slowly bringing it away from them was the biggest thing. But we'll hear some Dustin reports. Sound like he took off a week and had a hard ear and everything else, but we'll see what he's got for us.
It's kind of the same story with Grand Lake, kind of the same exact story, except we don't do as much casting as I feel like you do. We do more just vertical straight down on them, but we will, scanning towards the mid-lake will hold your bigger fish right now, and you can go up in these creeks and still find good fish on brush piles, but they're really locked in with a lot of smaller fish too on Grand. So closer to the main lake, the big water, you're going to have bigger fish in that 15, 20 foot brush pile range. And on those schools of fish that we find, I'll do kind of the same thing. We'll drop our bait almost till we get to them, but we always stop it on top of them.
Yep.
And we'll almost hold it. I'll watch on that live scope a lot. We'll almost hold it to where as soon as I see one picking up to come to it, then we'll start reeling it. But until then, we'll just hold it there. And we'll let that minnow just kind of dangle a little bit, and one will pick up, we'll finally get one's attention to come up out of there, and then we'll start slow reeling it. And it seems like you have to react right when they start to move, you start moving. But yeah, as far as that, it's kind of the same story. We're getting into a full swing summer pattern. We've had a lot of dog days of summer finally. The heat is really setting in. I think we've got 88 to almost 90-degree water temp in some areas. So it's a full swing summer pattern, and we're going small baits as well. Like you said, they have a ton of bait fish in their face right now. I could take some videos of these balls of fish. They're up on the surface, of course, but you have small fry, the catfish, that are spawning right now all over the place. You got all these tiny shad fries. We call them small fry or shad fry, whatever. But just millions and millions of them rolling through these brush piles. You can even watch the crappie. Sometimes when a giant one comes through, they'll all pick up off that brush, make a run for it, and then go back into it. So they're feeding a lot on those small fry. So the bait of our choice right now, probably throughout the summer for a while, we're going to go as small as we can with those itty bits. The slab hunter was the best bait last week. Gosh dang, you're going to get me here. Hang on a minute. June bug, chartreuse, silver. June bug, chartreuse, silver, something like that. The itty bit, and that was an absolute killer in that clear water. We had cloud cover though, and on those cloudy days, those June bugs are just about my favorite color on a good cloud covered day. I don't have a June bug on me, but I have one close. And then of course the Cajun cricket, slab hunter, itty bit are killers too. So and I'll put a split shot above them, just something small to keep.
What hook are you using on that setup there, Dustin?
I use the Moglo Crappie Crappie Pro jig heads. These guys right here, and they have a 24th that fits them itty bits perfect. But I know you use the itty bit heads, the little ones with the lead heads. But both of those work great. My favorite for sure is those Crappie Pro jig heads, the Moglos. They have them in 24th, and they have a little keeper on them, and it fits those perfect. And it seems like they hold up pretty well on that. You catch a lot of fish on one itty bit till you got to switch it. I'd say 10 to 15 fish, almost a limit of fish. And then I just keep a pack in my pocket, just keep throwing one on there because they're the way to go for sure. Like I said, when you start bringing it away, that little action that those little baits give while they're following it, they're loving it for sure. So that's Grand Lakes Fishing Report. Go out there on the main lake, off ledges, like you said, or even on flats off the channel where the channel's swinging, or deeper docks. Docks are plumb loaded too. In the shade of docks, you can get a hold of them too. So two best ways are in the main lake, docks and brush piles, and they'll have tons of crappie on them. They're all finally done spawning and doing the same thing. So as long as this weather stays the same, looks like we got a lot of rain coming in though, so that's gonna tamper with us a little bit, but things should stay the same. And I noticed too, on the deeper brush piles, you will run into smaller fish with the bigger fish. And if you're not into the numbers thing, you don't want to go catch limits, because a lot of times I'm just trying to fill the boat with fish. If you go up to that 5 to 8 foot range, you're going to get a lot bigger size of fish. I don't know quite why that is, but the quality of fish goes way up when you go shallower. And on those laydowns, there might be 4 fish on that laydown, but they're going to be 4 really big fish. So if you're chasing giants, go up on those flats, shallow flats, and find those stick ups. You'll find big fish for sure. And that's probably on any lake around me, anywhere.
I'm going to answer a couple questions I see pop up there. That way they don't get too far behind everything that we're doing tonight. And we've got a really good subject line that I really thought about all day today, that what haven't we done on a consistent basis? And we'll do this subject line pretty much once a month. And I think it's going to be really good for especially you guys that are just really getting into crappie fishing, or, just like the title, just getting to be a little bit better crappie fishermen. And hopefully that we can help you out, and especially some of these guys that we got watching from, man, there's too many of them to name, that watch and help us out with the shows. Just like last week, I had Chris Webb and Carlos come in here and help us out while Dustin was out. It was a fantastic show. But to answer those 2 questions before I get too ahead of myself, Brian Wade asked me what kind of line I'm using whenever I'm casting. I'm using just a Sulfex 6-pound mono high vis. I do like high vis even when I'm casting, for the simple fact it helps me keep the line up with my my trolling motor
Target. Yeah.
target
Yeah.
whenever I'm using a high vis line. So I like a high vis line even when I'm casting just a 6 pound mono. Sulfex is my favorite. And seen Charles Henderson, if I recall right, he asked me about will long lining be good in September. It all depends on the fish, and it depends on water temperature and what the fish are doing, Charles. It's just like 2 weeks ago on this lake, we had a lot of rain move in, and it made these fish actually, and Hammer Hayden and I was talking about last week even, but it made those fish to come back and actually suspend, and they moved off brush and they moved off timber and they suspended out in the lake, which made for a very unique summertime pattern that we had to pick up on and adjust to and catch fish. And we did. And that's what everybody probably did as well. But it shows you that water temperature and even current can change up these fish in a blink of an eye, even in the month of June and July. If we get a lot of rain and a lot of current coming through our lake, for sure, it'll make those fish get off timber and get out of current and suspend and actually look for food. Now they went back to the summertime pattern. The lake kind of calmed back down as far as current and water clarity, and they're back to their typical everyday summertime pattern.
For sure.
But, this topic that I thought of this week, and let me get it on the screen.
Real quick, Mark Payne asked me what pound test I use with those itty bit baits. Mark, my favorite so far is the 6 to 8 pound monofilament, like he said, with the Suffix. Suffix probably one of the better brands being. But if you take that line and soak it in really hot water for I'd say at least an hour. Soak it in there, leave it in that hot water soaking. And you got to do that. Don't just slap it on your reel. Soak in that hot water first and then put it on your reel, and you won't have nothing smoother. Trust me. So, definitely soak it in that water first, because I've struggled with casting something lighter like that, or even something heavy. It just seems like you're letting all that slack out. You're getting tangled. All that stuff's coiling off my reel. So soaking it in water was a game changer for sure.
Now, guys, and I'm going to give everybody a minute to comment on here, and I see a couple of them on there right now. And I want you to comment your today's bite, whatever lake that you fished from last week, and let us into these details. And I see Crappie Gummies has got me a report right now on the screen. But the next topic after we get through with this today's bite fishing reports is going to be things to do to make you a better crappie fisherman. And there's endless ways to make you a better crappie fisherman. I'm still learning ways to make myself a better crappie fisherman.
Same here.
That's one thing I love about crappie fishing is there's always different things that you can improve to make yourself a better crappie fisherman. So, and we got some different things that we're going to talk about tonight. So stay tuned for those. But also throw out these today's bite fish reports. These help everybody out more than you can imagine. Every client that I had last week, I think pretty much watches our show. Yeah. And every one of them said how much they enjoy just looking at everybody else's success around the nation. And even the guys that travel around, they say, well, I see Brookville Lake in Illinois is a good lake right now to go hit. This looks like this guy's been catching them up there. Share what you're doing that's working. Other people might not come fish your spot, but it helps grow the sport, and that's what we're all about here is helping each other out, learning some different techniques, and just becoming a better crappie fisherman. So, Dustin, I'm going to let him read some reports as he's looking down at the screen.
Bobby Whitlow says Bugs Island and Kerr Lake fish on brush 15 to 25 foot of water, either on main lake ledges or points within sight of the main lake. Have to run through a variety of baits from itty bits all the way up to 3-inch. Seems like you got a couple on something and then you got to switch it on them. He said the fish sounds similar to my fish. He said he's going to want to try the shallow. He hasn't paid any attention to it lately, but he's going to want to try the shallow fish, shallow wood. Definitely Kerr Lake. If it's what I think it is, let's see. I think Robert Robinson fishes that a lot, maybe if I'm right. Up there by Wister Lake, if I'm correct. And I would say for sure that you have bigger fish up in laydowns. There's no doubt in my mind. It fishes a lot like a lake I know here that has trophy fish. And being muddy, shallower water lake, don't be afraid to go up in that 5, 6, 8 foot. Even it's crazy. The last time I went to these shallow, muddy lakes kind of like that, we were in 3.5 foot of water, Jack and Giants, and it was 85, 88 degree water. So those big fish will set up there really shallow still. don't be afraid to check the shallow wood for sure. I definitely would. If I was just playing around and wanted giants, that's what I would do, no doubt.
Appreciate Jeff Smith. I see you joining in from East Tennessee. Appreciate you, buddy. John Mayo. I knew he was going to come in. John Mayo gives us these great reports every week from up there at the Big Four. I guess it's the Big Three nowadays, but appreciate John Mayo, man. He's a great individual, great guy, and he helps us out every week with these great reports he gives us. Let's see what John's got. He's got fish eating it in Grenada over the past 4 days. They stopped pulling water and had to do a lot of looking for fish. It seemed that 90% of the fish were in 10% of the lake. But once you found them, you could catch them. 1/16 ounce silver hair jigs seem to be the best. It should be some were very finicky, but others would slam it. Let me see if John, what depth of water were you concentrating on whenever you went to Enid and Sardis? I know I don't want to let out everything in the bag, but those are just a little bit more. I'm going to kind of squeeze it out of John Mayo. Appreciate Mark joining in.
For sure. Thank you guys all for the fishing reports. Appreciate you guys. Let's see. Were one of you guys in Alabama around the 4th? Kevin, I was not. I don't know about this crazy man. You got to watch him. You never know where he's at.
No, I was not. I was on Lake Washington in Mississippi. Another little tidbit about Lake Washington, that's next Thursday night, that especially everybody watching from Mississippi and Arkansas area. I see that he's trying to yawn there. I'm going to bust him out on that.
I stopped it. It.
But next Thursday night, we've got a meeting with the wildlife biologist about Lake Washington and kind of see what their plans for in the future is. I'll definitely be there, God willing, and we want to pack that house out, guys. We want to show them that our crappie fishing brotherhood wants to protect a lake and grow it and make it even better. So please, if you're in the Mississippi, Arkansas area and can drive down to Lake Washington, and I'll have everything posted what time and place, I would love to pack out the house and show them that, hey, crappie fishermen are for real. We're here. We're proud, and we're going to make sure that that lake gets protected and it keeps on growing and becomes back to what it once was, because anybody that knows that lake knows what I'm talking about, and it's nothing like it used to be. Did I humble you there or what?
No, you'll have to read one. I just missed. I forgot his dang name. Williams. I think Kent Williams or something like that. He had a good fishing report on Mississippi oxbows, but it went past. I got new ones up already. I thought you were laughing at Matthew Rogers.
No, not yet. I hadn't seen Matthews yet.
Yeah. He said the bite on Arkla Butler is dead right now. He tried a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Too soon, brother.
Yeah, that's a little sore subject, I guess.
Yes.
Rightfully so.
Yeah.
Bobby, he's got a Bugs Island fishing report. Fishing on. Did you read that one or not?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Bugs Island fishing. Bobby Whitlow.
Whitlow, yeah, I read that one. I already answered him up on that one.
Man, yeah. Go ahead and read the next one. I don't want to mess you up.
Okay, I was going to say, dude, I've missed a lot of them, guys. So is there a Kent Williams up there with a good one? With Mississippi oxbows is starting out.
I'll get that in here in a second. Tony Van Norman, he fished with me last week, and he learned one thing is don't slam the ice chest whenever you put
Oh, yeah, that was a good one. I read that one. I thought, man, he's right. Yeah. Guys, you sitting on that brush pile, you slam the ice chest or even live well, you wonder why they stopped biting. It's because they heard that big old rattle underwater. That definitely can spook the fish. They might not run off, but you'll have a harder time getting them to bite.
He learned that last week fishing with me. He slammed the ice chest, and so I'm going to call Tony out on it. He wanted to bring it up, so he did learn that is a no-no in the boat. Do not slam the ice chest.
Sometimes I'll have kids that'll stomp around real loud too. And I'll be like, oh, makes me sick.
Brian Wade last week. Mark Twain, the thermocline seemed to be around 15 foot deep, and when I could find something around 10 to 13 on the deeper ledge, the fish were on the bottom in the mud. What colors were you using up there, Brian? Keep on going. Catch a lot of good fish in the bay in the red zone structure in 12 to 14 foot of water on black and pink head ties. You're talking about another guy with a lot of knowledge. I see him comment on here. He's kind of playing around, but that's Mr. Matthew Rogers. He
Oh yeah,
will. I'll
sure.
get him on here. He's kind of a jokester, sounds like too. So it's a good comedy hour when we have Matthew on here.
For sure. Hey, yeah, we could have a real good time on here. We're gonna have to get him for sure. You talk about somebody that can catch him though, flat out, no doubt about it.
Billy Boynton, Eagle Lake, definitely a tough lake to fish in the summertime. Next time I'd go over there, I hear they're biting really good at Showtard right down the road from that lake. So just a little FYI on that lake. Mississippi Oxbow, there's Kent Williams.
There it is. There it is.
The main river is low, and out of the most lakes, look for wood structure in 8 to 10 foot of water or suspended 12 to 20 foot of water. Fish are aggressive in biting a 1/8 ounce hand-tied jigs and electric chicken, water temperature ranging from 85 to 90. You know, I did go down to the Mississippi River this weekend, and they definitely, the river is extremely low right now. I do have plans to go back and fish some of those oxbows, and this month, July and August have always been probably my favorite months to fish any of the oxbows on the Mississippi River. They're just, not to get too deep in the subject line, but I actually developed tennis elbow from Lake Lee, which is an oxbow south of Greenville, for fishing and catching so many fish in the months of July and August.
That would remind me of the Red River in Louisiana. I feel like those oxbows have got to be just lights out during this time of year for sure. And the way Wesley Mueller makes it sound, the way I was talking to him the last tournament they had there in the fall, he was telling me sometimes the summertime can be a little wild out there. Those rivers and the oxbows are something I want to check out in the summer for sure.
Casting to them at 86 degree water temperature, and school suspended in 18 foot of water off points. Limits are easy. Stephen Sullivan. He's another stick up there in those part of the woods. So, guys, if you're wanting to go down in that area, that sounds like a very good tip right there.
How's Grenada doing? I'm thinking they're starting to yank limits out of there pretty good too. Casting to them, if I'm correct. If I'm watching the right things, people fishing that I think are there.
Mr. Larry Jones, Kentucky Lake, been tough for him. Did catch a 196 and a 157 yesterday in 20 foot of water. Stake beds covered with bait. Very hard to pick out crappie in the beds.
Wow. Hey, a 196 in the summertime is a giant. So that good fish. Congrats on that one, because that's a fish that goes well over 2 pounds in the spring.
Well, come on, I know I always get so far behind you guys. I'm not trying to look over anybody.
Would be great to see all the big names in North Carolina. Big bags being caught year round. High Rock has been on fire a long time. Many more Great Lakes in this area. Coleman, thanks for tuning in, brother. I would not be against going to North Carolina to rip some lips. So maybe in the future sometime that will happen. You never know.
I don't know what it is, but I've been having and maybe we could pull out something. Maybe we got somebody listening over in the really far west from Arizona to California, but I have an itch to go over there and jump on a plane and go crappie fishing with somebody over there in Arizona or California to catch some of those fish over that area.
Yeah,
I'd love to go
over to California. That'd be fun. You know which one I'd go to there. But yeah, that'd be fun. I got some family in North Carolina too. I just wasn't aware there was even crappie hardly over there.
Oh yeah. Chad, he said he had tennis elbow himself. And it hurts. I had to get 2 different shots 2 different times in my elbows from it, and it was pulling long lining. It was long lining jigs in the summertime, and literally we would catch a couple hundred a day pulling jigs in July and August and just smacking them. And I remember waking up at night, my arm against my chest, and just thinking, "Oh my God, it's about to kill me. What's going on here?" And to come to find out
the next morning and go again.
Chad, I really like that comment. I cannot appreciate that enough. Hopefully we can kind of give you some more, and we'll get on kind of today's subject line. We want to help you become a better crappie fisherman. Appreciate your support for tuning in. Also, guys, if you're looking for crappie connection gear, anywhere from our hats to these sun hoodies, and I'll wear a sun hoodie hopefully next week if I don't forget. But I'll wear one of our new sun hoodies next Tuesday night.
And if you wear a sun hoodie, though, you got to have the glasses.
No,
yeah.
We're not going there, Dustin. No, we're not going there.
Okay, all right.
But
hey, I got your nickname though. I got to thinking.
you don't
I'm
start
thinking
that.
Slim Shady.
Slim. I don't know about the slim part.
I like Slim Shady. Maybe just Shady.
Maybe Shady.
Shady. Oh, Shady. Shady Brad.
Yep, there you go. But look out, if you got want any Crappie Connection gear, it's on www.crappieforever.com, and we got a little special spot right there.
Billy asked if you could order some extra large Crappie Connection hats.
I'm sure these guys are watching, and I'm sure they will answer it.
Remember, listen, if they're the snapbacks, they will fit you because I have the biggest head known to man, and all those Crappie Connection hats will fit me. So don't be afraid of getting one because they will fit you. Promise you. You don't have a bigger head than me. It's a fact. Wesley Miller, what's going on, brother? We actually just talked. His ears were probably burning when I was talking about him in the Red
Sasquatch. He's on board.
Hey, Sasquatch, answer me this, buddy. I was telling him that you might be able to. He was talking about oxbows on Mississippi River. You can tear them up in the summer. Is that the same thing that goes on in the Red River in the summer? Do they catch them pretty good in those oxbows?
We got the sheriff on board. I see Mr. Randy Tucker. He's giving us a report.
Wesley Miller just said, if it'll fit Dustin, it'll fit you. I forgot. We were at, Millwood, and they were all sitting in there. We're having big crawfish boil. And I walked in, and somebody said, hey, come here. And I'm like, what? I walk over there with my plate. And I'm like, what? They said, turn around. I already knew what it was. My hat is hanging on by the last button. I only have the very last button there. On my hat fits there. It just barely hangs on kind of on that last. So I can't put two or it'll give me a headache.
Lord.
They freaking laughed so hard they about fell out of the dang chair. So yeah, Wesley knows I got a big head. Wesley, tell him if it fits mine, it'll fit yours. Promise you.
Randy Tucker has been catching the Pearl River up above. More fish on horizontal tops than vertical on ledges. 13 to 16 foot of water fishing chartreuse and white, green and chartreuse, catching big fish. Randy, I know a little spot upriver that I wouldn't mind going testing out. So, me personally, I definitely appreciate that report too. I was going up there and maybe visit you one day up the river.
Yeah, now you're going to go up there and just beat on them. See if Randy gives you any more pointers.
That's our sheriff here in Madison County, Mississippi. Does a fantastic job. Appreciate you, Randy, for coming on here every week and joining us too. But get back on the subject line. Like I said, we're easily distracted, but it's something I definitely want to make sure I cover this week. And it's different topics, and we'll get some other guys from Wesley Miller to Matthew to John Mayo, you name them, that's commenting with us tonight. But it's things to do to make you a better crappie fisherman. And I thought about this afternoon, and I was thinking about the people that's fished with me over the last week and some of the things they wanted to learn while they were fishing. And I'm sure Dustin has some things he's going to elaborate when it comes to these subject lines. But number one is learn some new techniques to crappie fish. You know, it's easy to get stuck and just go out there and do one thing and only have one style of fishing. And it might work 90% of the time. But especially in the summertime, it's a great time that you can experiment from spider rigging to long line trolling to pulling crankbaits to casting, you name it. The door's wide open this time of year on different techniques to learn. Now, we get in that cold weather and the water temperatures drops, it kind of limits to what techniques would really work well. But right now, in my opinion, that the door is open on learning different techniques. And us as crappie fishermen, and there's so many techniques that work for catching crappie. And last week I had a trip on learning live scope and how to read your live scope screen better. Then I had another trip where we just did on pulling jigs all day. And it keeps my job interesting by being able to teach people some of these different techniques. But also the guy that wanted to learn long lining, he really wanted to learn it so he could take his grandsons fishing. Gotcha. And you think about that, why would he, when you have live scope, why would you think of any other techniques? And it's getting that younger generation or even an older generation or your wife or your daughter or whoever else that might not want to sit there and look at a screen that just wants to fish, to say that you can take advantage of it from pulling crankbaits into these other things, from power trolling. I see Mr. Les Smith coming on here. But it's these different techniques. Get out here and learn. And we're going to keep talking about them every day. Well, not every day. I guess every today's bite on some different techniques. And hopefully, if you ask the questions, I can promise you from all these great guys that come on here and help us comment every single week, you will learn how. I'm planning on doing some more video in here in the future. I know Dustin's doing some, and there's a world of other video guys that's doing crappie videos that can kind of help you learn techniques. So my thing is, this time of year, if you want to become a better crappie fisherman, get out there and learn another technique that you're not familiar with. I've got a technique right now that actually I've never done that I'm looking forward to doing more of. And, it's that learning part for me when it comes to crappie fishing that keeps me motivated to get up every day. And I get people ask me all the time, do you fish whenever you don't have guide trips? And the answer is yes. I absolutely love it still. And that's what I go do. So the days that I don't have a trip, I want to go learn something that I'm not familiar with. And I can tell you right now, it's going to be, we did a podcast with Kent Driscoll. I sent him answer it here a second ago, but it's drop shotting for crappie. Something that I've never done a lot of that I plan on doing this summertime that I'm really looking forward to really learning and coming back and teaching you guys what I've learned from there. But learn some new techniques to make you a better crappie fisherman in the summertime, in the month of July, and you will put more fish in the boat year round if you learn more techniques. I'll get off my high horse.
I agree with that for sure. Wesley Miller said, in his opinion, it's all just paying attention to the details. Keep your jig horizontal, hold your jig still, be quiet, use smaller jigs than you're used to, and then go to different lakes where you're forced to use different techniques, which I agree with big time. I feel like that's where most of my success comes from, is I was always looking for something different and going to these complete different lakes. Like in tournament world of fishing, you're going to fish all kinds of different ways, different obstacles. And it takes different ways sometimes to look for fish. You're not going to go and look for fish the same way you're going to at my home lake as you are at Grenada or other places like that. Like they're catching fish roaming right now at Grenada, casting just small schools of fish when that ain't happening here. A whole different world of fishing everywhere you go. And that makes you a better all around fisherman for sure. You'd have to cast, you got to drop straight down on them, all kinds of different ways to catch them. Some lakes need more action on their bait because they're feeding on different things. And then some lakes need less action because they're not used to, they have different hatches. Your mayfly hatch was 3 weeks ago. Mine's going on strong right now. Total different when you travel around and go fishing in different lakes. So I wouldn't agree with that more. Some lakes I feel like have a lot of trees hanging over them, so they feed off a lot more insects and stuff. And then some lakes you don't have any structure or trees around the lake. It's wide open and flat, mud flat stuff. They're feeding off the bottom or different stuff, crawdad, stuff like that. So definitely going to different lakes is a big one. Don't get stuck and get comfortable with catching the fish at your home lake if you want to kind of get better.
And I see a question from Josh here. He's asking about with the thermocline, and I'm going to actually bring up the thermocline here in a second. It's on my notes actually to discuss today. Thermocline set up in 14 foot of water. Do you pull Bandit 300 slower or less line out, or change up to Bandit 200 flicker shads? Let me see.
Keep normal speed.
Keep the normal speed. I'll be honest with you, Josh. I use Bandit 300s really for everything that I do as far as pulling crankbaits. Most of the fish that I'm on target when pulling crankbaits are typically going to be 8 foot and deeper. 14 foot is really in that prime time. I'd say about a 75 foot line out to get in that range for me as far as 14 foot deep. Bandit 200 is going to go shallower. The only way that we ever really used Bandit 200s and then I really switched to long line, but would be fish that were I won't say 7 foot and higher. And Kent Driscoll can chime in and answer this question. He's a stick when it comes to pulling crankbaits too on here, but that's me. That 14 foot range is perfect for a Bandit 300, and that's what I would pull.
Yeah, 12 to 14 foot thermocline. You'd have to think those fish are around 10 foot, wouldn't you? 10 foot deep or so? Or do you think they ride that line?
I'm sorry. I was reading a comment.
Oh, you're good. I was just saying, if the thermocline is 12 to 14 foot deep, don't you think they set a few foot above that,
Yeah.
around the 8 to 10 probably foot would be money
Well,
there?
it's one of those things that I see these fish sometime in the summertime that, you'll bring those baits a foot above them. And then there's some days that actually you want to bring those baits 3 and 4 feet above them.
Okay.
So to me, it just let the fish kind of dictate that. If thermocline set up at 14 foot, I would never want to go deeper than that. I would actually want to set up that depth and higher.
Yeah.
And just let the fish kind of tell you what color and hit that range. I see some different guys commenting to actually help you out with that.
No doubt.
Billy Boykin, he's asking about the live scope. I'm trying to read it. Yeah, Billy and I've seen Sasquatch there comment, and that's like 3 times, Wesley, that I got it right tonight. Wesley's a good buddy of mine as well. But, Garmin is just a little bit ahead of the game, in my opinion, and what I've seen so far. It seems to work a little bit better for crappie fishing compared to bass fishing. I think when you come to some of the other manufacturers, they probably do really well when it comes to bass fishing and some other species. But for crappies, it seems like the Garmin is just like a really sharp arrow, and it'll go right through something. Just does the trick.
Mike Sanders said, talking about crappie feeding on crawfish, he said he has cleaned crappie with crawfish in them. Mike, for sure. Depending on what lake, I've watched them with my own eyes eat crappie in tanks. My buddy's got a tank with some, and you can feed them crappie. But I cleaned in Millwood, believe this or not, I cleaned a crappie with a mud puppy in it. So I don't know if it was on the standing timber the mud puppy came up and it ate it off the standing timber, or it ate it off the bottom, but there was a mud puppy in its stomach. I've got a picture of it, and that was probably the coolest thing I pulled out of one stomach was that mud puppy. But they eat so much more than what I used to think personally. I used to think it was just shad and bait fish, and that was it. And mayfly, of course, mayfly and bait fish, but they eat so much more. Promise you. Yeah. Other than the pop tab, I pulled that pop tab out of one time. It was pretty crazy that someone had dropped on a dock. It fluttered down and it ate. But the mud puppy was crazy at Millwood.
That fish might have committed suicide.
Yeah, I think he would have done it or
something.
Yeah.
Michael Drake asked, he knows pulling crankbaits that I use different rod setups versus long line and with open face. Is there a reason? Yes. Now I'll use a B&M Pro Staff trolling rods, whether it's pulling crankbaits or pulling jigs. Both those rods, I handle both of those duties. Pulling crankbaits, I'm always going to use line counter reels. I want to control the exact depth to say and pull braided line. I pull braided line whenever it comes to pulling crankbaits. Pulling jigs, I'm going to use a spinning reel, and I'm going to use 6-pound mono, so it's completely different lines. And I control the depth instead of the line I'm letting out. I control the depths that I'm trolling with those jigs by the size of the jig head and the speed of the boat are the factors that I really go in there and fine tune the depth. So hopefully that kind of answers your question. But the next thing that came to my mind today of things to do to make you a better crappie fisherman, and it's knowing when to downsize and when to upsize your baits. It's kind of like today, and Dustin and I actually talked a little bit about this afternoon. And I think that, and we're hearing it more now than ever as far as downsize and downsizing. Now, and you hear about people pulling crankbaits, and you think of those two different things, and they're completely different realms of the spectrum. You think of a very small and a very big bait. And why is that? And it made me really think about this subject a little bit this afternoon, and I was wondering why. Because the fish that I'm catching almost look like really pre-spawned fish. Now, when it comes to these small baits, we're having to really finesse them to get them to bite. So to me, that's a fish that's not really aggressive at the moment. He's full, bloated, or she, and they're not really aggressive feeding. So we're having to really finesse fishing to get them to bite. Now, crankbaits is a fish that's aggressive, and he's chasing down, and that's why I don't think they're aggressive throughout the day. And what I mean by that is it's kind of like if you go into, and I use this analogy, and no offense to either one of these fast food chains, but if I go in to get Crystal's hamburgers, I'm not going to go buy me one Crystal hamburger. I'm going to buy me 5 or 6, depending on how. I'm going to eat several of them is my point.
So you got to tell us what Crystal's is too. Is that like a McDonald's?
Like a White Castle?
I don't even know White Castle, brother. You got to speak English over here.
They're very small little burgers.
Oh, okay, got you. Kind of like a McDouble from McDonald's then.
Well, they're even smaller than that. And typically whenever you buy a combo from one of these fast food chains, and I'm sure there's other ones, but White Castle and Crystal's come to my mind.
Those are 2 places I never heard of in my whole life.
Good Lord. Can't help this man.
Anyway.
But they're very small. And usually whenever you get a regular meal there, you're not buying one of them. You're buying 4 to 6 of them at a time to eat. And it's just, if you go to a restaurant that has very large portions, you just buy one of them. It's kind of like these fish. Whenever they decide to eat, if they have the opportunity, they will bite a big bait like a crankbait. Now, if you're having to finesse them, they're not really hungry. So you're trying to get them just to, a lot of times out of aggravation, to get this bait out of their face. So I think that's why knowing when to downsize and when to upsize can be the key. If you got a area that seems to be just really on fire and you can control crankbaits, throw them out. And whenever the bite slows down on crankbaits, that's when you might need to finesse them more than usual and come back and actually start finesse fishing. I hope that don't sound just totally crazy, but that's kind of my thought process on things.
For sure. I always say too, sometimes when you think you ain't hungry, I'll tell the wife, I just ate, I'm good, and she'll get something to eat. And when it comes in the car and you smell that French fry straight out of the toasters, you kind of think, I can fit one in there. You know what I'm saying? You put it right in front of me, and I can still fit some more in there than when I wasn't hungry if I wouldn't have just had it put in front of me.
A lot of guys are saying
There's
that
Dad Rogers.
Is he going to come in with? I hope
he came in there. He said, if you eat Crystals, you better have plenty of toilet paper.
And the third portion of the show that I thought about when it comes to this topic line is fine-tune your electronics knowledge. And I had a few guys even chimed in here on thermoclines, and I seen a little bit of thermocline last week. I didn't see one today, but what is a thermocline and how do you see it on your units? And for me, you can do it no matter if you're using 2D sonar.
Oh, yeah. Down imaging.
Side imaging.
Yeah, all of it.
Down imaging, and of course, live scope. It's really easy to see if you start noticing a haze.
Yeah.
Distinct haze or what have you on your screen. That's going to be a thermocline setting up. Now, I've noticed through the years that you might go to one portion of the lake, and maybe let's say the south side lake, and it's 10 foot and deeper. Well, you might go to the north end, and all of a sudden it's at 8 foot. So the thermocline just does not stick in one level all completely through the lake. And it's really easy to find. If you're not seeing anything on your unit, just keep adjusting your gain if you're using live sonar, and all of a sudden you'll see it start becoming a hazy phase along the bottom of the lake. And that tells you at that point that everything below there is not really in the oxygenated portion of the lake, in the water column. For me, there's a couple different ways that always is a telltale sign on a lake if there's a thermocline. And I've seen it today, seen it in the last 2 or 3 weeks, is by looking at little dead fish. And a lot of times it's catfish. And you think of catfish, they're on the bottom of the lake. They're more susceptible, I guess that's a good terminology, to a thermocline kill than these other species that go up and down the water column. That's why we see more catfish dying during a thermocline setup. And as soon as these hot days are out and you start seeing dead catfish floating, and they could be, hand size all the way up to 40 pound. I seen a 40 pounder dead today in the lake. for whatever reason. But seeing dead fish in the lake floating, especially catfish, will tell you that there's more than likely a thermocline. And if you're not seeing it on your unit, keep adjusting your sensitivity on your unit or your gain. Mm-hmm. And if there's a thermocline by either one of those, adjusting your sensitivity or adjusting your gain, it will pop up on your units. And right there, that tells you, all right, I know the thermocline's at 10 foot deep, so I need to fish up higher than that.
That's just like around here. People are having a lot of times, I don't know what you guys call it, noodling or jugging, but we call it jug lining. And if they have their jug set anywhere past like 10 foot deep right now, those fish are dying within half an hour to an hour. They'll pull up these fish on the lines. They'll be dead so fast because those catfish will eat those bait under the thermocline and they can't survive without that oxygen. So they'll be dead on the line. So it's kind of, if you want to run jug lines right now, you need to go shallower or your fish will die really fast. Or you check your jugs constantly. Just keep running through them.
I got another question right here that I want to answer. Is from our TikTok side of thing. He's asking me, he's fishing with a B&M Pro Staff power trolling rod. Is it kind of heavy for live scoping? I would say absolutely. That's not your best choice when it comes to live scoping, open water fish. As far as B&M and being a 16-foot pole is going to be your 16-foot black diamond. Been using it for, I guess, about 3 or 4 months now, and it's a deadly pole. The power trolling rod that you're talking about is actually used to power troll or spider rig and push heavy weights out the front of the boat at a high speed. So it's a very stiff pole made especially for that technique. So you're actually, I would not use that pole that you're asking about to live scope.
Louis asked what it was like, or Lewis, what it was like on your graph, what it looked like on your graph, the thermocline. And like he said, I would say it's like a fuzzy static on a TV. And there's kind of a distinct line from where it goes from fuzzy to clear on your live scope or whatever you're looking at, down imaging, whatever. It'll be real fuzzy up. Probably anywhere from 10 to 15 foot is where you'll see it, depending on your water clarity. The clearer the water, the further it should be down. So if you get up in the real muddy, shallow water, I bet your thermocline will be shallower. But you'll definitely see, if you turn your sensitivity up, it'll get way stronger. It's almost like you're going to see a second bottom. You'll go kind of a blurry bottom and then your bottom. That'll be your thermocline line. I know if you're looking for crappie, don't look past the thermocline line. So if you got a thermocline line, you're out there in the lake and it's like 12 foot, I'm looking all under 12 foot for those crappie because they're not going to be under that thermocline line.
Yeah, and I'm going to answer, I see a question on here too, but, we're talking about learning the electronics better. Tomorrow's podcast that'll be released, it's a podcast that I did at the Crappie compound at Mr. Les Smith's place back, I guess, about a month ago now. And that topic was how to fine tune and how to use your side imaging better. We go into a lot of details on that podcast. So if you're new to crappie fishing and new to using electronics to catch crappie or just want to get a little better, definitely look up the podcast that's coming out tomorrow on Crappie Connection from YouTube side of things to, of course, here on Facebook or Spotify or wherever else. But that particular podcast is going to be really detailing on how fine-tuning and how do you really decipher how to use side imaging better. And we go into a lot more detail on that podcast. And definitely check that out. I'm trying to catch back up with you guys. Billy is asking about, you can answer that one.
Go ahead. What was it?
It's a major difference in Garmin units as far as picture quality. The 86 series or 84 series are going to be the highest pixel count and processor or whatever that makes that picture quality the highest. And then I would go into the Echo Maps. Is that right?
Yeah, I'd say that. Yeah. Don't ask me. Don't ever ask me if you're politically correct on something at all. Whatever. Hey, but Eco Maps or Echo Maps, however it goes. Yeah, that's right.
Just use one of them.
Yeah.
But
86 and 84 is what I was gonna say, but I don't have either one of them. I've got the 1222 And I feel like some are a little clear, yeah, but they all serve the same purpose. And none of them are clear enough to where you can't use one or the other as good as it. Some are like, oh, wow, this is nice. This is a lot cleaner, but they all work. Like they all work just as good. You can use them well.
Billy, unless you really want to go into tournament fishing and different things like that, I probably wouldn't go in that high level. I think I'd rather have two 126s or 122 SVs or something like that, and instead of having a 84 series. So to me, they'll be just fine for what you want to do.
For sure.
And we can see if we got 120. And Wesley Miller actually chimed in and answered that question.
Yeah, there you go. He said the 86 series and the 8612, 8616 are more clear, but the 1226 SV works well as well also. So like I said, I don't know. Some people have gotten in mine and been like, what in the world are you looking at? How can you see it? It's super blurry or not as clear. And that's due to if I did upgrade it, you would probably see a lot more. But we still catch them the same. So it'll work for what you need.
Casey, what question do you have about the Garmin 106 SV? Maybe we can answer that real quick. If not, make sure you join in next week and we can make sure we answer a little bit earlier in the deal. As always, it's been a blast tonight. Like I said, to find any kind of crappie connection gear, go to crappieforever.com, and those guys got some really good.
Get you some itty bits.
Get you some itty bits.
Get you some itty bits for this summer for sure. And Daniel White, you're right. 1222 is one of the best for the money for sure. That might be why it's on my boat. I started with the 1022 and went to the 1222. So just the bigger screen's easier on the eyes, but clarity wise, I'm not super worried about.
That would be more of my emphasis is start out with a 12-inch screen, whether it's from the 1222 to the 124 SV or 122 SVX. Billy, you can message Dustin or I, and if you got some more questions about the Garmin, or even post it up here. I'm sure these guys that are joined in tonight will definitely chime in and help you out with that.
We've got a couple comments asking what my nickname is. We don't know that yet, do we? Because I ain't heard it. Besides, you called me McDummy.
I'm trying to think of it. I had a very
Dustin
good
McDummy
one
last time.
What was it?
It was Dustin McDummy last time.
That's it. That's it. I'm so glad you remembered and I didn't.
Oh, man. Oh, yeah. I said, honey, I think he just called me McDummy.
McDummy. That was it.
Yeah. That's great. That ain't Wesley Miller said big head. Like a big-headed carp.
Definitely. Douglas, thank you for coming on. Steve, Charles, Wesley, you name it. I'm going to give Casey a couple minutes.
Appreciate you guys very much. Hey, he's going to work on that nickname. We'll have one for you next week. I seen a couple of y'all asking. I'm sure we'll have one, yeah. McDummy can't stay true. Gosh dang, dude, that ain't fair. What's going on?
What you do to your ear, man? It's got to be McDonald.
I guess.
It's blast. And hey, if you got a nickname you want to, we're still in the process of this.
Yeah, we're still looking. Yeah.
I definitely like the McDummy myself.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
No, he knows I'm playing with.
I appreciate you guys for tuning in tonight. Thanks for all the fishing reports, too. Keep it coming.
Yeah, and we'll see you Tuesday night next week, not Wednesday night. Next Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Central. Subscribe, like, follow. Go in there and invite your buddies next week. You can do that very easily. How I'm putting the events out, you can go to the listing and actually invite people to join us next week. So if you got somebody asking about crappie fishing, invite them to the event next week. I will post it next Tuesday after I get off the lake.
You bet.
Until next time, guys, you got Brad Chappell.
You got McDummy.
McDummy.
We'll see you guys.